What's up, Taiwan? Good evening. I'm Erika Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. We begin with the latest on the COVID situation here. Taiwan reported more than 53,000 new cases on Monday, a noticeable dip following a 3-day holiday weekend. Now, the government is asking parents to look for warning signs in children who may be infected. As of Monday, 16 children with COVID-19 have died in Taiwan, all of them since April. Jean Van Trieste has more.
Taiwan is taking action to catch COVID in children early. Faced with a growing number of deaths and a lower vaccination rate than among adults, it's giving out free test kits to children as young as 6. It's also trying to handle the growing number of young COVID patients with encephalitis, or swelling of the brain. It's a complication behind a string of deaths in children here. Experts say parents should be looking out for unusual behavior.
脑炎的小朋友在可能就医前或者就医当中，会有一些这种所谓语无伦次，或者是有一些幻觉导致说讲出一些可能听起来比较耸动的言语。事实上，在我们目前的脑炎个案当中，并不少见啊。
The government is urging hospitals in the south of Taiwan to raise their capacity to take in patients. The south has seen a growing number of cases, leaving less than 30% of beds available.
那这个南区应该要增加200多床，那希望能够这样子的增加的床数在调配上面能够更有余裕。
Taiwan's health minister says he expects the ongoing wave to start easing at the end of the week. This will give hospitals room to breathe after what's been Taiwan's worst outbreak of COVID since the pandemic began. Asnaya Zhou and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
China's foreign minister wrapped up a tour of the South Pacific without securing a regional pact on security and trade. During his visit, Wang Yi made a stop in 8 island nations. He signed dozens of bilateral deals on issues including infrastructure and police equipment. It's the first visit to the region by a high-level Chinese official in more than 2 years. The centerpiece of the trip was the discussion of a proposed security deal between Wang Yi and the foreign ministers of 10 Pacific Island nations. That failed to materialize. Beijing's renewed interest in the island nations has drawn attention from traditional Pacific players such as the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. For more on the significance of the trip for China and the region, reporter Louise Watt spoke to an expert on the Pacific Islands, Dr. Tess Newton-Kane.
My sense would be that it's very unlikely that Taiwan was discussed. However, when it comes to what's happening in the Pacific Islands region as a whole, the fact that Taiwan has diplomatic relationships with 4 members of the Pacific Islands Forum, so that's Nauru, Palau, the Marshall Islands, and Tuvalu, is really significant because, and this is why China is unable or wasn't able to ask the Forum Secretariat to convene a meeting of the Forum membership because it's not possible for that to happen. The Forum Secretariat can't convene a meeting of the Forum membership and then say, oh, but you guys can't come because China just wants to meet with the ones that have diplomatic relationships with them.
Taiwan has extradited a man accused of stealing $3 million from a woman in San Francisco. The man is 30-year-old Tianze Zhang. San Francisco police say he broke into a woman's home in March, physically held her down, and forced her to transfer money into his crypto account. They say he then loaded the money into digital wallets and fled to Taiwan, where he traveled around the island with a woman he met online. Authorities say the pair spent over $170,000 of the stolen money. Taiwan police arrested Zhang in the southern city of Kaohsiung last week. San Francisco police then came to Taiwan to bring the suspect back to the United States with the help of the FBI.
This collaboration truly represents the best in international law enforcement cooperation, and we appreciate the collaboration of the Taiwan authorities.
Taiwan's government is hoping to raise the minimum wage every year. That was the word from President Tsai Ing-wen on Monday. The president was speaking at a meeting of the Taiwan Confederation for Trade Unions. Her administration has already raised the minimum wage every year since she took office 6 years ago. That's despite the difficulties that the COVID pandemic has caused for many industries. Tsai says the government will work with small and medium-sized businesses to overcome challenges caused by wage hikes. Human rights groups are condemning the arrest of at least 6 people in Hong Kong for marking the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Events commemorating the 33rd anniversary of the June 4th crackdown were held around the world over the weekend. For the first time in Hong Kong, there are no public activities marking the date. Police prevented people from entering Victoria Park, the traditional venue for Tiananmen memorials. They warned residents that it could be illegal to go to the park, to hold events, or to go online to even suggest others do so. In Taiwan's capital of Taipei, crowds gathered on Saturday night to mark the anniversary. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick was there.
Torn down in its hometown, a Hong Kong icon is reborn in Taiwan. A replica of the Pillar of Shame, commemorating the victims of the Tiananmen Square massacre, now stands in the heart of Taipei. Unveiled on the 33rd anniversary of the deadly crackdown, when soldiers opened fire on pro-democracy protesters in Beijing on June 4, 1989, killing thousands. The project was launched by the New School for Democracy.
这个决定说实在不是一个深思熟虑的决定，我们是在一股冲动之下所做的决定，因为香港有我们很多很好的朋友，因为港区国安法的实施他们现在坐在国安的法庭的大牢里。
Veteran activists like Zhang say they feel an affinity for Hong Kong, since Taiwan also endured a long, harsh period of martial law, known as the White Terror. Hong Kong, once under British rule, was handed back to China 25 years ago, with the promise that Hong Kong's freedoms would remain unchanged for at least 50 years.
For decades, the Pillar of Shame stood as a monument in Hong Kong, both to the victims of June 4th and to the city's freedoms, its unique role as the one place on Chinese soil where people could remember their sacrifice and the dream of democracy that they died for.
But that came to an end in December last year. Fears of running afoul of a national security law imposed by Beijing prompted the University of Hong Kong, where the pillar stood, to dismember and remove it. Its ultimate fate? Still uncertain. As Hong Kong authorities have used the law to crush dissent, Taiwan is now the only place in the Chinese-speaking world where the June 4th massacre can be publicly acknowledged. Some here feel a sense of duty to pick up the torch, but Taiwanese activist Li Mingzi, recently freed after 5 years in a Chinese prison, sees it differently.
我不认为要去提出它是华人世界唯一一个能够举办六四的地方，我认为那个不重要。我认为重要是台湾作为世界人民的一部分，而且台湾对世界的标榜是台湾是追求自由民主价值的，我们又是世界第一线面对中国威胁的，台湾更应该纪念六四，用纪念六四让世界人不要忘记中国政府的恶行。
This year, an art exhibition on the site highlights human rights issues in China, and films screened outdoors also focus on the changing face of Hong Kong. For many here, like exiled Hong Kong artist Casey Wong, the day has become about more than just remembering the Tiananmen crackdown.
With the fall of Hong Kong, Tiananmen vigil will no longer be possible. So for me to be able to publicly participate in the vigil as well as connected with the brothers and sisters of resistance, such as the Tibetan people, the Xinjiang people, and the Taiwan people. So this solidarity connects us because we have similar enemy.
With candles in hand and a minute's silence observed, Taipei's Pillar of Shame went up with the help of Hong Kongers who are trying to start a new life here. The replica is less than half the size of the original, but its message is just as powerful. Taiwan has not forgotten what happened in Beijing 33 years ago, and will defend the freedoms here that are slowly being lost in Hong Kong. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today, we leave you with images of thousands of terns in Taiwan's Penghu archipelago. The bird's population unexpectedly exploded after tourists stopped coming due to the pandemic. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.